Hello, Algebras. Here is a note sheet for those of you who missed our lesson that we did in class. On notes number 3, solving systems with substitution. Substitution is easiest to use when one of the variables is already isolated. Choose one or isolate one of the variables in one of the equations. Choose the equation that has a variable of a coefficient of 1. Substitute this expression into the other equation and solve. Substitute your answer back into one of the other equations and solve. This will make more sense to you once you see an example. Remember, you're going to write your answer as an ordered pair. So what's happening here is we're used to solving systems of equations by looking at the point. But we've decided that graphing is not always the best way to go, since it doesn't always work out evenly, and we need a plan for how to work with fractions. So if I have these two equations, y is equal to 3 and 2x plus y is equal to 7, this value for 3 can be substituted into y because this sign guarantees that they're equal. So I can have 2x plus, and instead of y, I'm going to write what y is equal to, which is 3. Then I can go about solving my equation my normal way. Notice I've gone from having one variable to two variables, or from two variables to one variable, and that allows me to solve for and get a value for the 1. When I know my answer for x and I have a value for y, that's the point where these two equations cross. Alright, so this one is very, very similar. I have the equation y is equal to 4. This sign guarantees that these two things are the same. I can substitute one in for the other. So what I do is I create a pocket in my equation, and instead of writing y, I'm going to write what y is equal to. When I solve for my variable, I get a value for my x. What I've done is I've taken an equation with two variables. I've replaced one of them so that I can solve for just one variable at a time. My answer is always an ordered pair. Here's my x and here's my y. Okay, so if you look at these next equations, they're not so, they're a little more difficult, because instead of just having a value for my variable, I now have an algebraic expression. And this guarantees that this has the same value as x. And because of that, I'm allowed to substitute it in. So what I'm going to do is create a pocket using parentheses. And instead of writing x like my equation, I'm going to write what x is equal to. Now we have a great opportunity to practice here, because I know this is like having a -1, and I want to make sure when my next step is to remove parentheses and use the distributive property that I go ahead and distribute that -1, giving me -2y plus 10 plus 3y is equal to 0. -2 and positive 3 gives me 1y plus 10 is equal to 0. Subtracting 10 from each side gives me a y value of -10. That means that in my final answer, my output of my point of intersection is negative 10. Alright, so I'm not done though. I still need to solve for my x. Since I know here that my x is equal to 2y minus 10, I'm going to go ahead and substitute that value for y that I just solved for. I'm going to put it in for this y. Now we can go back to these notes and read them again and say, oh, all right, I choose one equation, there's a coefficient of 1, or that variable is already isolated. Substitute it into the other equation and solve. Put that answer back in and solve. Then I'm going to write my answer as an ordered pair. So I'm going to continue going here, and x is going to be equal to negative 20 minus 10. X is equal to negative 30. Alright, let's take a look at this second problem over here. Again, this is nice because I have a value for x, and I'm going to plug that in to my original equation. So I have the opposite of that value for x plus 4y is equal to 8. That x is 3y minus 12. Remember, anytime I see a negative here, that's actually having a negative 1, and that has to be distributed. So I have negative 3y plus 12 plus 4y is equal to 8. 1y, 4 minus 3 is 1, plus 12 is equal to 8. Subtract 12 from each side. Y is equal to negative 4. That means in my answer, I have an output of negative 4. When I come over here and substitute and solve for x, x is equal to 3 times my value for y minus 12. Here I got a negative 4 for y, so I'm going to put that in. And then I have x is equal to negative 12 minus 12. X is equal to negative 24. Alright, let's take a look at the next page. So you have some more practices, and what's interesting here is they again made it one level more difficult. I don't have a variable that is solved for, but instead I need to look at which of these two equations would be easier for me to isolate a variable. For me, for this equation, adding x to each side is going to give me y is equal to x plus 1. That's going to be an easy thing for me to substitute in for this y. In this equation, this would be the easier equation to work with, because by adding x to each side, I would get y is equal to positive x minus 4. That's easy for me to substitute this in for this y. Take a look at number 7. I have coefficient, 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 so that means that this x would be the easiest to solve for by adding 4y to each side, giving me x is equal to 4y minus 1. Here, this is the equation that has the simpler variable. By subtracting 3y from each side, x is equal to negative 3y plus 3. This is what I'm going to substitute in for that x. Okay, pause the video, see if you can work these out, and come back and check your answers. Okay, let's see if we match. So I have 2x plus whatever I want to write in for y is equal to negative 2. I'm going to put in x plus 1. That's going to give me 3 x's plus 1 is negative 2. Subtract 1 from each side, divide by 3, and x is equal to negative 1. When I come up here and I go to substitute, my y is equal to my x value plus 1. I'll put negative 1 in, and I get a y value equal to 0. So my ordered pair is negative 1, 0. All right, let's look at number 6. My original equation for x plus, I'm going to leave a pocket for what y is going to be equal to, and I'll put x minus 4 in. That's going to give me 5x's minus 4 is equal to 26. If I add 4 to each side, that gives me 30. Divide each side by 5, and that gives me 6. So when I come up here, I'm going to go ahead and say y is equal to my value of x minus 4. X has a value of 6. Therefore, my y is equal to 2. My ordered pair is 6, 2. That's the solution, the value for both variables that works in both equations. All right, I have 2x plus 2y is equal to 3. I'm going to substitute this in for x. So I'll create a pocket, substitute. Now this one I need to do some more math because I need to distribute. So I have 8y's minus 2 plus 2y's is equal to 3. So now I have to add my y's together. I'm going to add 2 to each side. 10y's is equal to 5. Divide by 10. Y is equal to 1/2. I'm going to come up here and say x is equal to 4 times what I got for y minus 1. This 1/2 is going to go up in here. So my x is equal to 2 minus 1. My x is equal to 1. So my ordered pair is going to be 1 and 1/2. Keep in mind, it doesn't matter which variable you solve for first. And if I had picked a different equation, it would have still worked out. But I want to keep it as easy as I can. All right. When I look at this one, I have 2, and I'm going to create a pocket for x plus 7y is equal to 1. Inside that pocket is going to be what x is equal to, negative 3y plus 3. I need to distribute this 2 to everything that's inside. Negative 6y plus 6 plus 7y is equal to 1. These are like terms. 6 plus 1y is equal to 1. I'll subtract 6 from each side. Y is equal to negative 5. When I come up here, x is equal to negative 3 times what I got for y plus 3. I got negative 5 for y. So my x is equal to positive 15 plus 3. My x is equal to 18. When I write my ordered pair, my answer is 18 because my x comes first, negative 5. Okay, so look at this last two equations. Look at the system of equations. What is the value for the x solution? So I'm going to take this expression here and I'm going to put it in for y because they are equal. So 3x plus that value for y is equal to 11. X plus 3. That's going to give me 4x plus 3 is equal to 11. 4x is equal to 8. X is equal to 2. It only asks me to solve for x, so that's all I need to do. Here, what is the value for x for the system of equations? Again, my y is solved for, so I'm going to put that in for this y. X minus 2 times that value for y is negative 5. 4x plus 6. X minus 8x minus 12 is equal to negative 5. Negative 7x minus 12 is equal to negative 5. Negative 7x, add 12 to each side, is equal to 7. Divide by negative 7, divide by negative 7, x is negative 1. Alright, so make sure you do the homework, watch the video, and check your answers.